Hi, this is Patty Henning, and we're back at Shelby DIY for another episode. This is our fall special where we thought maybe we would do something that ties into the autumn festivities. Last year, actually, I think Katie was the first year we did the first session, and we did them on pumpkins, and we did them where we were showing how to leaf and gild pumpkins in the foil. So I pulled these little guys out because, of course, you can pull out your old accessories. But this has been kind of fun. The owner of Caramel Colors kind of turned me on to the idea of using the botanical papers for kind of embellishing the pumpkins and squashes and stuff like that. So I thought today we could do some of that. And then if we have time, we can just show how you can, you know, make other little fun things with it. But the papers are pretty cool. We do a workshop here. The one that we're doing right now is where we put them onto stars. So this is the one where you can take those papers and just use pieces of them, and you can kind of put them onto anything. We put them onto furniture, drawer fronts, inside drawers. You can just frame them for art, but there's just a million different images, and then there's even the fun ones for holidays. So we're going to have a little bit of fun with this. So the first thing we need to do when we use these papers on these pumpkins is we want to put a base coat on the pumpkin so it has something to the paper has something to go on to. And here we already had this pumpkin painted from, I don't know, last year, but I pulled it back out and I figured we could just go back over him with the botanical papers. So I'm going to take these are the botanical paints. They go over anything without the sanding and stripping. And this is the cattail color. And I'm going to use this. You would just use your paint, get one coat on whatever you're going to apply these to. We've gone over picture frames where they're old art with glass, and we paint over the glass and the frame, everything, and then we let it dry, and then we use that as kind of a canvas to adhere the papers to. Same thing like with the stars, those are wooden, so we just pick a color to start with. The color, it doesn't necessarily have to play into the factor. If you had a color left over, you could use it. But if you're going to let some of your paper have cracks and edges open to reveal your surface color underneath, then it would matter what color it is. So for the botanical one where it's going to be kind of a neutral, I'm just going to use this cattail color. And then for the other little pumpkin, we're going to use the black. Okay, so you just get one coat on your surface. Sometimes these round things, I remember last year even, they're not so much fun to paint or put anything on because you kind of have to do the whole thing at once and then there's no good place to hold it. So I'm just going to plop it onto this little plate. Okay, so he's all set and he'll dry. And then the little pumpkin, this is the black, okay? This is just the little, this guy's a little orange pumpkin. I'm just gonna give him a coat of the black. This is hopefully gonna turn out to something a little fun, not sure though, because sometimes we get ideas and then we try them and they kind of turn into duds. So hopefully this one will be kind of a cool little thing when we're done with it. So, I mean, you can look around your house and see whatever you can adhere these to. We've had people adhere them to, like, you know, shovels, sleds at Christmas time. We did these papers before where we adhered it to the stool. I think that was the first time we introduced the papers around Christmas time. That was real pretty and popular. And we had a lot of people that came in and started doing fun projects themselves. The papers are pretty popular, and for these pumpkins, for the big one, that size pumpkin, you would need 2 sheets of the same image if you want it to be kind of uniform. For this little pumpkin, I'm not even going to use a whole sheet, so if that gives you kind of a little bit of an idea. And then this guy, we're just going to do something fun with, so I'm just giving him a coat of black too. And don't ask me what these are, because I don't know, and the joke was we almost just threw them in the garbage because I was tired of having them laying around here. So these are going to dry too. And the other thing that we're going to do before we go to drying time is I'm going to show the papers, And really what we would do is we're going to want to cut these into strips, so we'll do that now. This is going to be the image that I'd like to use on this pumpkin. So it works better, you know, I'll use less paper, 2 sheets, like a sheet and a half, if I use an image that's going this way. If I prefer an image this way, then I'll probably use 2 full sheets for sure, maybe even 3, okay? And all I do here is if you cut them, it doesn't have to be exact. If you cut them in, you know, like 7 or 8 strips if it's sideways. They don't have to be even, but it'll help when you're adhering them to a round surface like a pumpkin. Okay, so here I'm just going to take a straight edge, and I don't have to worry about having like a worn, torn edge. I'm just cutting straight down because once it gets onto the pumpkin, they all kind of blend and overlap, and I've found it doesn't really matter. So we're just going to cut these right into strips, and I would keep them in the order they're in because as I apply them to the pumpkin, they're going to go on in like left to right order, okay? And if I have to go into the second sheet, then I will. So when we come back, this is going to be what we start with, our strips like this, how we would do the pumpkin, okay? And for my little guy, I'm actually going to use this eye chart, and I'm just going to use the smaller part of it. We've already done a few of these little pumpkins, and they don't take as much paper. So I'm just going to make smaller strips for him. Okay, and then when we come back from drying, we'll show how to apply the papers onto the surfaces and then what other kind of fun stuff you can do with it.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Steinhurst. My husband and I are owners of Steiny's Tavern. We're located on the northwest corner of 25 Mile and Shelby Road. We offer a unique dining experience from our restaurant to our off-site catering. Everything we make is from scratch. We utilize Michigan-made products whenever possible. We're open 7 days a week. We offer daily lunch and dinner specials, and we carry the most craft beers on draft in all of Macomb County. So plan on coming out to Steiny's Tavern, where you come for the food and stay for the party.
Hi, we're back at Shelby DIY, and our pumpkins have dried. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to take the adhesive that we use to apply these papers. If you had something like shellac, or not shellac, Mod Podge, like that kind of thing that people like to use traditionally, you could use something like that. I've used that before. It's a little thick for me. I like the reclaim sealer. Well, we use it because we have it here. So it gives us a multi-use for it. It's a great indoor-outdoor sealer. It's all water-based. But it makes a really nice adhesive for these papers because it's real thin. And it's not real gummy or gluey or tacky. And then it just allows us to have more work time because these papers aren't really super thick. I mean, they're not like loose leaf paper, but they're not heavy cardstock where you have more time to work them. So what I like to do is I take the reclaim sealer and I like to add about a third of water to it just to loosen it up even more. You don't have to do that, but I've found that that works just as well too. So you don't need a whole lot of it to do a pretty good project. Okay, and then I'm going to start with this big pumpkin, and you know I could start anywhere I want, but I guess you know if I just kind of set them right here. And I'm just going to splash this stuff, get them nice and gooey and wet. And I'm going to go further than I think because when I was doing this, you actually kind of move pretty quickly with it. So I have it real sloshed on there, okay, over my dry paint. And then I'm just going to take my first strip here, and I'm not going to rip the edges or anything, and I'm just going to kind of tuck it up at the top of the little stem. And I'm going to follow kind of one of these ridges down. Now, for you people that like things very perfect and particular and precise, and you like it all to be even, you might not want to do this project because this is like one of those projects that you just have to go with the flow and be okay that All of your ridges aren't going to come down straight and even. You're going to start to get an angle because it's not a flat surface, and it's going to have little wrinkles and edges, but it ends up turning out really, really cool. The fun part of this is it looks good regardless of how you do it. I was really surprised that that it turns out so nice. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my next strip. I still have, you know, enough gunk on my pumpkin here, and I'm just going to tack it right down next to this guy. Now if I wanted to leave cracks, that was where the base color plays a role, then I can leave it, but I want my image to just kind of line up the way I don't want to really see the pumpkin if I don't have to, but if a little bit of it does come through, then it's okay because it kind of just blends. So I'm pushing it down with my fingers. This will be like a real hands-on, you know, get one with your pumpkin, and, you know, kind of push those edges down, okay, and then as I slap on some more, I'm just going to naturally kind of run over what I just did too. And the bottom will just become like a bunch of overlaps, and it doesn't even sit up real thick like you would think. It just kind of ends up being as flat as the base, so you don't have to worry about that either. Okay, so I'm going to put some more on my pumpkin here. Grab my next little strip in a row. And at some point, you know, you're going to have to just be okay that your images aren't going to line up like you cut them. But again, the first couple ones do. And that's probably where you'd have the pumpkin sitting like on a ledge where you can see the best part of your work as you go around the back. And especially once you have to add more paper again, then it's not going to match up to the existing image. Okay, so it gets kind of sloppy, but your hands will be, you know, all mushy, and it's not super, like I said, it's not real icky glue. It's just a nice, mild adhesive, so you don't mind it. I mean, I guess you could wear gloves if you want to, but I'm not a glove girl, so just gonna strip these right down. And you know, the botanicals are really pretty. I mean, I think they kind of go anywhere. You know, you see them in, like, you know, bathroom powder room decor where they're just, you know, nice soft accents. You see it in kitchens where it's not like the real bright mustard and burgundy fruit. You know, they're just kind of European. A lot of times you see the writing in the background, but usually they're florals and the colors are pretty muted. You know, some of the papers get into a little wilder of a color pattern, so there's variety certainly if you wanted to pick and, you know, create a theme. Definitely if you did them on a pumpkin or a gourd, it would kind of put it more towards a fall festive thing. You know, you wouldn't have them out probably at Christmas, but then you could switch and do them on something else, like, you know, a sled for your outdoor porch or the little stool that we did. Okay, so we're working our way around here. Okay. And got like another one. And now I feel like I'm running out of time. I gotta step it up a little bit maybe. Okay, so he goes on. Okay, so see, slowly we're kind of working our way around the pumpkin. And it is really lining up, I mean, for the most part. Okay, so then I get more. So you're constantly just reapplying, and you know, you're going over a little bit of the pumpkin that's already been covered because you want that to be adhered pretty well, and then we'll actually put this under a dryer. But at home, you would just let it sit out and dry. I mean, you wouldn't have to force dry it. There's no reason to, unless you were rushed for time and needed it for, you know, a dinner party or something, and you weren't a good planner and didn't have everything done ahead of time. That would be me. Okay. And the botanical paints, I'm gonna run out of this stuff, are real nice. I mean, they cover over any of your surfaces. If you had to do like a, you know, piece of furniture, or even if you wanted to do like a little bathroom cupboard, it actually brushes out really nice. It's a nice brushing paint. It dries very, very chalky flat. So for most people, I think they'll probably want to apply like a top coat or a polyurethane or a sealer. This sealer actually works nice too. And that pops the sheen so that you have a little bit of sheen left on your surface. How am I doing for time? Good? Okay. Okay, so we're going like this. And actually, I'm going to leave it right like that, and we'll finish this one after. Okay, so we got this guy. I have like a little bit left to do, but I'm going to jump to the other one so I can show you this guy too. Okay, and then this is our little guy, a little pumpkin, and he's painted with the black. Okay, I'm going to slap that on him. And then I'm going to grab the little eye chart. Okay, and I'm going to stick this like this. And if the strips get too long, like on the bottom, then what I can do is just rip the little edge off. That's what I was doing on the last one. I think my hands are all yucky. Okay, and we got this one. So I'll do this. And this is the one where I was hoping it turns into something, but I'm not quite sure how that'll work. So we'll have to see. Okay. Okay, wrap it like this. And once he's on and that pumpkin's wet, it just makes it easy to kind of smush it to the pumpkin's little round ridges, okay, like that. It's not going to dry on you right away like a Mod Podge does. Okay, and then we'll put this one on. Okay. And these, if you let them air dry, they're not going to take that long to dry. I'd say probably about an hour, hour and a half before this would dry. And at that point, you could leave them and they would be done. What we're going to do is we're going to add just a little bit of a stone, not on this guy. This guy will stay the way he is. But on the big one, I'm going to add just a little bit around the stem, just so you could see other things you could do with it. You can glaze them, you can antique them, you could even take something and, you know, do another stencil over it. You could do whatever you wanted, really. Okay, so that's kind of the start of our little eye chart guy. Okay, and lastly, before we go to drying, this one. Now you would wait until he's dry, but I'm actually going to do this right now just so that when we do dry and we come back to do the final stages, we have this on there as well. And this is that, oh, it's like a plaster from Caramel Colors. We've used this before in the past. It's a great little lightweight plaster that has some little particles in it that creates some cool texture and depth. And the stem, I found it looks pretty cool if you can kind of tuck some up in the stem. Just ages it, makes it look old. You could also use it if you had any areas that were like imperfect and you wanted to, you know, like here I have some of the pumpkin open, okay, and if I dragged it, and I don't even have to leave it super heavy and white like that. What I can do is just take like a dry cloth and I can soften it back like this, so you can see that it's really kind of muting it out. But even that little bit of shadowing, we'll leave some on it. And you know, just here and there, you don't have to do this. You could keep your pumpkin, you know, perfectly clean, but you'll see at the very end when we put a little light glaze over this, that can look nice too. So it just gives you options. It can cover for people that are real particular and they don't like things to look imperfect. It can cover little spots you had to miss, or tears, or, you know, overlaps, stuff like that. So, okay, what we're going to do here is we're going to put these both under the dryer again, and then we'll come back and we'll show you how we wrap these pumpkins up.
A&A Recycling Center is Michigan's premier parts recycling center that saves you money while protecting the environment. We pay top dollar for late model junk cars, SUVs, and trucks. All types, all models, both foreign and domestic. Search our online inventory to find used and refurbished parts. Need quick cash? Don't throw away your junk, because your scrap metal is worth money. Selling has never been easier with our easy drive-on, drive-off scale. Visit A&A Recycling Center today.
Hi, we're back at Shelby DIY with our dried pumpkins that have been wrapped in the botanical papers. And what we're gonna do now is I'm just gonna show you, if you take your pumpkin, we could have left it, like I said, just that raw paper when it dries, and it would be real nice and natural, because they make those papers kind of aged anyway. Or like this one had that plaster, and then it kind of gets antiqued up with the toners and the glazes. So I'm gonna do that with this guy. And I'm gonna just show you two different colors. This is the toner by Caramel, and this one's the black and brown toner. It's by them also. It's in the botanical line, just to show you the two different colors. We have a lot of different glaze colors here. Plus we can tint to any color, so that makes it fun. But these two are like pretty neutral browns. And this is the black brown toner, if I was just to use that color. Okay, and I can go right over that plaster. I don't even have to sand it, nothing. It's just once it's dry, I can go over it and the paper. And if I did that, it would give the pumpkin like this type of look. It's a little bit cooler, a earthy green brown, where the toner is more of like a antiquing brown. It's warmer. Okay, so if I did this, I can wipe it back, and it can give that kind of look. So a lot of times what I like to do is just with these papers, I mix a little bit of both, because the one's a little boring to me, but then the toner can be a little too intense. So I'm just gonna grab both, and you can go over your pumpkin as well, the paper. So even if you picked a paper where it wasn't too antique-y, the paper itself wasn't real vintagey, and you want it to have like an aged look, you can do that by just using one of these glazes once it was dry. So I'm just gonna give this a quick little rub, and I'm not using two different brushes. I'm just dipping into, I'll go over the stem too, over both. Okay, wrap it around here. Okay, and that plaster will just, whoop, didn't get that piece down. The plaster will just kind of blend in. Now I could leave it that dark if I wanted to, but that's not going to be so much fun. And I can just take a dry cloth, I just ball it up, and I'm just going to softly kind of dust them off. And if I want more off, then I could just wipe a little harder. But it's kind of nice how it can sit in those cracks of the pumpkin. Pumpkin has a lot of cracks. Makes it interesting. Okay, here we go. So, and I'm going to leave it up there around the stem. Okay, so you can see that. And then this side doesn't have as much of that stone. And then you can see how this side incorporated a little bit of it. Okay, so then you can line these up. You could do several of them, have them out for, you know, display. You could arrange them around even your fall festive table for Thanksgiving. Okay, you'd want to make sure you let that dry somewhere good before you put it on anything like a piece of furniture. The other thing I'm going to do is just give a quick squirt of this, it's a cream glaze, on our little eye chart guy, because he got a little dirty. I'm going to do it around the stem. So you can do anything you want, or you can just leave it the way it is. Okay, I'm just doing a little bit of that just to kind of brighten them up. Okay, so that'll be my little eye chart. Okay, and then the last thing I wanted to show, only because I had gotten a email from a lady that wanted to see like the application again of the texture stone that we have. And a lot of times the way I use it is just with the stenciling, and we've done this before too, where we do dimension. So this little box that we painted, I'm just going to take this stencil here and I'm going to line it up. Okay, you can put wherever you want. Now I just painted that box, so I'm not going to use any kind of adhesive on my stencil because I don't want it to pull the paint. And I don't really need to tape it, because I've found that tape pulls my paint as well, but I'm just going to hold it right here. And I'm just going to use these little credit card, you know, gift card things, get the plaster right on the edge like that. It's loaded up. And then I'm going to start at one, and it's kind of like just frosting a cake. And I'm not going to scrape hard. I'm actually going to leave a lot of it sitting right on top. Okay, and I'm going to go down over here. Okay. And then immediately I'm just gonna lift it right up. Oh, and that line bled, okay. So here we go, is here. And then if I have a bleed like that, I could just take, if you have like a little brush, you can even use like a little pencil, or you can wait for it to dry, a little bit of water, and you can try to get that out. Okay, or I can just use like a hard thing. A lot of times I wait until it's done. When I use these type of plasters, often it's the one I use in between layers of paint. So little bleed like this you're not going to see because it's just kind of like a watery bleed. If it was thicker, you'd want to make sure you get it cleaned off. Okay, so you just have to do a little bit of work like that. Okay, but the reason I did this was because this is back to those little boxes that we had, okay, where we didn't know what we were going to do with them. And when I stared at them, they kind of looked like little Christmas people that have the winter coats on with the little muff, like the hand muff with no head. So what I thought was, like, if we did like little pumpkin people, and we took these little, we have these little bags here for the crystals that we bag up. So we took these little bags. This is the idea that's kind of dumb, but it's kind of so dumb it's funny. And I used a little dot, okay, these little glue dots that are annoying, but they actually work pretty good. And I gave our little pumpkin guy a trick-or-treat bag like that, okay. And then like we even like had to like drive the point home so that like you'd know what he is, because he might not look like it, but it's like this little guy could go as an eye chart. I thought that was kind of funny, you know, like if we did the rest of his little outfit in the eye chart thing, obviously I'd have to clean that up. And what I would do here is when it dries, when everything dries, I would take my black back out and I would just, with a little artist brush, you know, use like little brushes, you know, like this, and just clean that up and it'll look good as new. But so this was like our little eye chart kid, and then we had him over here where he's going to hang out with his pals, and he's got like his other little buddies. Okay, where that one's just like a little Harlequin kid, and then that one's like a guy dressed as a girl. That's his little dress. So they're all ready for trick-or-treating with their little candy bags, and their poor little brother isn't dressed yet. So, but anyway, that's just kind of outside the box again. The papers really are a lot of fun, and you know, you can get them in holiday images. We've tried to pull the ones we think would be interesting. We've had a lot of interest with that. They're real pretty. And then there's a lot of Christmas ones. We've got Easter, you know, every holiday I think is covered. And then everything else too, from like kitchen themes to old bicycles. A lot of them are vintagey, but they're a lot of fun, and there's a lot of great ways you can use them. And you know, hopefully we gave you some ideas here where you can kind of look around your house or for fall and use them to dress up some of your stuff. So I hope you enjoyed today's show, and we'll see you next time at Shelby DIY.